Pound of Flesh by Shembre. Chapter 2. I wonder if Simba makes his cup train too. Probably not, though. Nuka's lazy style of training suited both Kovu and Nuka, especially since their mother's training style had only become more ruthless now that Simba's cup was in the picture, and for weeks that was all their mother had talked about. Kovu even suspected that the other lionesses were getting sick of hearing her talk. Kovu, your training is coming right along. You'll be more than ready when you meet Simba. Simba will be no match, and once the lionesses complete their training, controlling the Pride Lands will be no issue. Too bad they were too soft when Simba returned. Simba's daughter doesn't deserve to be Scar's great niece. How do you expect to take the Pride Lands when all of you refuse to take the day before sunrise? These Pride Landers didn't appreciate Scar for his mind. Well, not only do we have Kovu's sharp mind, but also the strength he'll have that will rival any king that Pride Rock has ever seen. We left grieving in fear of our lives, but we will return triumphant. She had told the brothers to train without her while she stayed behind at the den and trained Vitani and the other cubs. Nuka was sunning himself on a rock and had told Kovu to lie down in a hunter's crouch and be quiet. Although they could stay there peacefully, Kovu felt a nagging awareness in the back of his mind to not be idle, and soon enough the sun became unbearable on its own. Kovu's voice was hoarse from thirst, and his stomach was empty. I want to go see Vitani. Can I leave? No, stay there. I'm not ready to go back yet. Nuka, this is dumb. You won't think it's dumb when you have to hunt Simba for hours without him knowing. Kovu groaned. Nuka, there isn't even any grass here. There's plenty of grass to cover me over in the Pride Lands. It won't be hard. Nuka snorted. Smart ass. How about I take you back and you can train with Mother? Huh? Kovu flinched. He had trained with her the day before. Every muscle in his body had ached so terribly that he'd found it hard to sleep the night before. He was too much of a coward to whine to her, but every time he was on the verge of complaint, his mother seemed to sense it. You must develop your strength, Kovu. You're sore now, but you'll thank me later. One more leap around the den. It might make all the difference. Stop looking so sad and tired. Simba isn't going to just lie down in front of you and beg you to take your throne. Nuka cracked an eyelid. That's what I thought, termite. Now sit there and pretend you're stalking Simba. Kovu rolled his eyes, but crouched back down with his chin on his outstretched paws. No wonder Mother doesn't like you, Nuka. You can't even do anything halfway good. Kovu looked up at his brother. Maybe, if you tried harder, Nuka, Mother would notice and like you more. Do you really think I care if she likes me? Nuka's words were indifferent, but his voice betrayed a small ring of bitterness. You're her favourite. Kovu sat up and frowned. Well, sometimes I wish I weren't. Snorting, Nuka rolled over on his rock. Well, too bad, 'cause you are. You're not even Scar's kid. Kovu narrowed his eyes. You always say stuff like that, Nuka, but I don't even know what you mean. Nuka always says things like that, acknowledging Scar with disgust most of the time, especially when everybody else's faces light up when Mother talks about Scar. Why'd you get mad that I'm not Scar's son? Kovu asked more directly. Are you jealous? I don't want to talk about it, you little twerp, Nuka said, his shoulders tensed. Well, why are you mad that I'm going to kill Simba because he killed Scar? Don't you want that too, like Mother? I'd rather be back in the Pride Lands, if that's what you mean. Not really, Kovu narrowed his eyes. Nuka, I know nobody has really said it, but Scar was your father. Right, I said I don't want to talk about it. In one motion, Nuka rolled off the rock and shoved Kova off his paws. The cub would have been impressed by what was perhaps the most graceful thing Nuka had ever done, if it weren't for the older brother pushing him down. Nuka stood over him, with his lips curled back over his crooked teeth. Kova shook his head and glared back at his brother. "Fine then." He lifted his chin before climbing back to his paws. "If you don't want to talk about it, I'm gonna go find Vitani." "Fine." Kova started to walk away, but then turned back when Nuka stayed behind. "You're supposed to watch me, you know." "So? Mother's gonna be mad. And what's new about that?" "I might get lost. Something might eat me." "Have fun." Nuka jumped back on the rock and sat down. With a huff of his own, Kovu turned back around. "Don't say I didn't give you a chance." "Goodbye, chosen one." Kovu sighed and shook his head. "Good luck. If Mother finds out, maybe she'll be too distracted to notice." Wandering back the way he and his brother had come from the den, Kovu's thoughts continued to linger on Nuka and Scar. Nuka had been around during Scar's reign, and their mother had been his most loyal lioness. If Scar was Nuka's father, wouldn't it make more sense that Nuka would be the one to go after Simba? And why is it me? Why would Scar want me to avenge his murder instead, like Mother says, if I'm not even Scar's son? And Mother adores Scar, but hates Nuka. Why? Wouldn't she love his son, if my guess is true? Wouldn't she be proud of him and want him to kill the killer of his father? Did Mother like my father better? Was he better, whoever he is? Whoever he is. His thoughts then skipped to his mother and her dreams for him. She had so much planned for him that all of it made his head spin. She obviously wanted him to hate Simba and his entire family. They were the enemy, the murderers, the mutineers, the one who made his pride suffer in exile. Not like us. But something about it all made him choke on everything she expected him to swallow and take to heart. He was mostly indifferent and angry, but not hateful like his mother. He was unsure if he even knew what it felt like to hate, because he didn't think he felt it. What's wrong with me? Shouldn't I want them to die? Shouldn't I want to help the family? I want to, but I'd rather find someplace else to live. What's so great about the Pride Lands? Does that make me a coward? Mother would say I'm a coward like Nuka if I told her. While he'd been preoccupied with his thoughts, he had wandered, guided by his nose, to the river that separated the Outlands from the Pride Lands. Vitani had told him days before that parts of the river had crocodiles in it, kept them from trespassing into the Pride Lands. He told her she was lying, but she'd sworn she wasn't. When he stood on the bank, he searched the meandering current for life. But that water looked so disgusting. He couldn't spot anything beneath the murky surface, but he did find a fallen tree that linked his home to the Pride Lands. Kovu blinked and looked around self-consciously. The opportunity was too good to pass up. He hadn't been to the Pride Lands since the exile, and he remembered nothing about it. His mother had warned him, Vitani, and the other cubs to stay away from the Pride Lands for fear of being killed. But despite this, the adults frequently went there to hunt under the stars. Maybe I'll just look, then I'll come right back. It's about time I learn more about the Pride Lands, right? Maybe it won't make me so afraid to kill Simba. He walked over the tree and leaped high to catch his claws on the dry grey wood. Moving slowly and steadily, he crossed the river. Below him, threatening rumbles came from the floating dark-skinned beasts that hid most of their armoured bodies beneath the surface of the murky water. Kovu grinned at the crocodiles. Cool, but I wouldn't want to stare down any of their throats. He continued across the log to the other side and leaped onto the solid land, where he stopped and gasped. Immediately, he was struck by how bright the grass was as it swayed in the breeze. In a daze, he walked up and ran his paws through the blades, and instead of breaking off, the green grass sprang back. Is this the place that will be mine one day? It's beautiful. Hey, come here! Cold panic went up the back of Kovu's neck, and he ducked and looked around when he heard the voice, ready to run back across the dead tree trunk if anyone tried to catch him. He couldn't see anyone, but he heard someone giggling and panting excitedly through the grass. Wait, come here, I just want to play. Hey! Kovu lowered his ears and tilted his head to the side. Are you talking to me? The voice didn't sound harsh or demanding at all. After looking over his shoulder once more, Kovu crept into the grass. Before long, he found the source of the voice. He peeked through the grass. There was a small girl cub playing in the middle of a small clearing. She was jumping up in the air, giggling and battling at an orange and yellow butterfly. Kovu laughed to himself. How silly. Playing with a butterfly. He lowered his eyes and continued to watch her. I wonder if she's Simba's cub. If this is my competition. Is this Simba's heir? Kovu crept forward slightly. But in the same moment, the other cub raised her ears and stopped playing. She looked around and arched an eyebrow. Hello? She sat down and the butterfly fluttered off. For a second, Kovu hesitated before he growled, still hiding. You let the butterfly get away, Pridelander? Oh, the cub flinched at his tone, but she looked around. I'll find another one. There's lots around here. She stood up again. Who are you? Kovu. He stood up and stepped into the clearing. Oh, there you are. I'm Kiara, she chirped with a smile before she observed. Wow, your fur is really dark. Kovu wrinkled his nose. Well, yours is really orange. What's your point, Pridelander? Kiara arched her brows and averted her eyes, seemingly in embarrassment. I was just... nobody has fur like yours in my pride. Where are you from? She then paused and a crinkle formed between her brown eyes, which went up and down when she noticed that he was almost twice her size. Are you from the Outlands? Is that why you keep calling me a Pridelander? Kovu puffed out his chest. Yes, I'm an outsider. He took a step towards her, and then another, when Kiara started to back away. Are you scared, Pridelander? Kiara shook her head and took a small step back. No. You sure? He chuckled. You sure look scared. I'm not scared. Kiara then started to wave and jump from side to side. She growled and bared her teeth. What the? Kovu suppressed a laugh and raised an eyebrow. Her form was all wrong. This was more than he had expected from a soft Pridelander. What are you doing? My father says to never turn your back on an outsider, and my father's the king. So, she is the princess, he snorted. You always do what Daddy says. No, Kovu laughed. Bet you do. Bet you're Daddy's little girl. With a booming roar, a huge golden-furred red-maned lion burst from the grass behind Kiara, casting her and Kovu in the shadow. The lion bared his long fangs and lowered his head as he looked at the grass behind Kovu. Oh my! Gasping in awe, with his eyes wide, Kovu pressed his belly to the dirt. I should have stayed in the Outlands. End of Chapter 2, Part 1.